The moment it neared him, he instinctively leaned forward to catch it. And as he did, something within him shifted. His eyes took on a faint, mysterious glow. A spark of energy flickering within them. Baidu, standing nearby, noticed Xiaofeng's sudden movement and watched him with growing concern. He straightened up, feeling an odd sensation ripple through his body. Somehow, he had swallowed the crystal core completely by accident. But instead of feeling discomfort, he felt different. This new energy seemed to settle deep inside him, foreign yet intriguing. As Baidu realized what had happened, her expression turned to one of shock and worry. Just then, Newton's small cat gave a soft, sorrowful meow, its eyes misting up as if it wanted that crystal. Just then, Suchen walked over, noticing Baidu's alarmed expression and Xiaofeng's glowing eyes. The cat, still nestled in Suchen's shirt, continued to whimper quietly, as though clinging to him an understanding of the crystal core's significance. Suchen looked at Xiaofeng, a thoughtful look crossing his face, then stepped closer to offer his support. Xiaofeng, still struggling to make sense of the strange energy pulsing within him, voiced his confusion, asking aloud why he hadn't felt any surge of power. They'd faced their trials soon enough, but survival came first. He took in her appearance, noticing the frayed edges of her clothing and the scratches. A flicker of worry crossed his face as he asked if she was all right. Baidu gave a slight nod, brushing off her disheveled state with a calm confidence, her focus still entirely on their surroundings. Meanwhile, in the middle of the shattered street, beneath the damaged light of a worn-out pole, a woman hung helplessly, bound and suspended. She dangled there, her body slack, clothes torn and smeared with grime, her face etched with despair. Nearby, a fellow victim who had also fallen into the clutches of the Devourers, a twisted gang that thrived on others' fear and suffering, feeding off submission like a sick craving. One of the Devourers loomed over the woman he captured, his eyes gleaming with dark amusement. He leaned in close, letting his tongue flicker out, savoring her terror as though it were a feast. Nearby, another Devourer stood watching, a cruel chuckle escaping his lips as he urged his companion to prolong her suffering. He egged him on to draw out her cries, each desperate sound adding to their twisted pleasure. Like notes in a dark, sick symphony crafted purely from her fear, she tried to pull away, shrinking back from the hands that held her captive, her words stumbling out as desperate pleas for her life. She begged, her voice trembling with fear, but her captor only sneered, mocking her. He dangled a sickening offer before her, a twisted promise of survival. If she could satisfy him, maybe he'd let her live, and if she failed, he will hang her up there to dry like jerky. Her gaze shifted to the lifeless woman hanging from the pole nearby, her body swaying gently in the night breeze, a chilling reminder of what awaited her if she disobeyed. The woman's heart raced, and her voice broke as she stammered assurances, desperate to survive. The weight of his words pressed down on her spirit, shattering her last defenses. Tears began to slip down her cheeks as she looked up, realizing the thin thread of hope she clung to was slipping away, replaced by a cruel reality. Her captor's laughter echoed around her, feeding off her fear, but suddenly, the low roar of a car engine pierced the oppressive silence. Bright headlights cut through the darkness, flooding the street and catching the attention of one of the Devourers. He paused, turning to face the approaching vehicle, sensing a disturbance. He nudged his companion, gesturing toward the oncoming car. The car's engine rumbled to a stop, and Xiaofeng stepped out, his expression hard and his posture tense as he stared down the group of Devourers. One of them scoffed, sizing him up with a mocking sneer, dismissing him as just a child foolishly interrupting their twisted game. His companion, however, looked at Xiaofeng with a sharper, hungrier gaze, licking his lips as he imagined this young intruder as their next victim. Baidu, watching from the side, glanced over at Suchen, who was still relaxed, seemingly unconcerned, and amusing himself by playing with the little cat. She furrowed her brow slightly, then said just moments ago, he had barely recovered from swallowing the crystal core, and now he stood, unarmed and alone, facing three menacing Devourers. The air was tense, thick with an unspoken danger, yet Suchen remained calm. A faint smirk crossing his lips, he reassured Baidu with a look, exuding a quiet confidence that suggested he had no doubts about Xiaofeng. In his mind, Suchen assessed Xiaofeng's potential. In his previous life, the name Fengtian had carried the weight of raw, unstoppable power, a force capable of destruction as intense as a nuclear blast. Suchen understood that real combat was the only way to bring out that hidden strength. As he glanced back at Xiaofeng standing in the middle of the battlefield, he noted the unyielding calm on Xiaofeng's face. There was no trace of fear or hesitation, only a determined stillness, as though he were waiting for the right moment to reveal his true strength. The Devourers rushed at Xiaofeng, their cruel grins widening as they closed the distance, fists raised, eager to strike him down. One of them taunted him, mocking his silent defiance, while another sneered, vowing that this would be the last day he'd stand on Earth. But Xiao Feng stood motionless, his expression cold and detached, giving nothing away. He seemed completely unfazed as the first devourer reached him, launching a furious series of punches, each one crashing down with the force of a sledgehammer. The others joined in, their strikes coming down relentlessly, each blow intended to break him. Watching from a distance, Baidu's worry grew with every strike, her eyes fixed on Xiaofeng as the devourers unleashed their brutal assault. He looked like he was taking hit after hit, struggling under the impact, her face full of concern. Could it be that Xiaofeng was really struggling? In fact, Su Chen believed Xiaofeng was starting to grasp the depth of his powers. As the assault continued, the devourers' expressions began to shift. One of the devourers paused mid-swing, a look of bewilderment spreading over his face. He muttered in disbelief, unable to comprehend how Xiaofeng had taken so many blows without injury. Their attacks should have shattered him, but there he stood, unscathed. Then, finally, Xiaofeng spoke, his voice low and chilling. He clarified, almost dismissively, that it wasn't that he was unaffected by their attacks. No, he had been absorbing the energy of their strikes, pulling it inward and transforming it into strength. As Thai attacked Xiaofeng, the green energy grew denser, expanding outward in tendrils that stretched toward the devourers, latching onto them and beginning to drain their strength. Each of the devourers felt the strange pull, their own power draining away as Xiaofeng's ability took hold, leaving them weaker with every passing second. One of the devourers gasped, feeling his strength slipping away, while another's voice rose in desperation, pleading to be released from Xiaofeng's grip. From a distance, Su Chen observed with a sharp, intent gaze, his thoughts turning over the true depth of Xiaofeng's potential. This was no ordinary ability. Xiaofeng was like a black hole, drawing in every bit of energy around him with a hunger that seemed limitless. His power didn't just defend, it consumed, making him an unstoppable force. Yes, Xiaofeng was truly Fengxian he knew. Out of nowhere, a powerful arc of movement cut sharply through the air, a double-bit axe, with precision, found in a sweeping curve, its blade gleaming in the dim light. In one swift motion, all three devourers' heads cleanly severed. The movement was so fast, so shockingly sudden, that Xiaofeng froze in place, his eyes widening in astonishment as he struggled to process what had just occurred. The axe swung back gracefully, coming to rest in the hand of its wielder, a tall, imposing figure who stepped out from the shadows. Captain Sunday. His gaze was intense. Behind him, a small band of followers stood silently, their expressions unreadable as they observed the scene. Captain Sun took a few measured steps forward. He said if he hadn't invented in time, you all would have been devourer of food. Now as repayment they need to hand over their food. Xiaofeng blinked in surprise, his mind still reeling as he tried to make sense of this unexpected rescue. Sukwon, noticing Xiaofeng's confusion, placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, guiding him gently but firmly toward their car. Sukwon told him to wait inside, then lingered for a moment, heading back to their supplies to retrieve something. A short while later, he approached Captain Sun and handed him a small, sparse ration. Captain Sun glanced down at the offering, and his expression darkened with irritation as he realized it was merely dog food. Offense flashed in his eyes, but before he could react or voice his discontent, Sukwon had already turned away, joining Xiaofeng and the others. Without further delay, he got into the vehicle and drove off. Captain Sun's anger was visible as he watched the car vanish into the distance, his jaw clenched tight. Standing close by, one of his trusted subordinates stepped forward, sensing the frustration in his leader. He spoke, suggesting that Captain Sun had let an opportunity slip by. Why hadn't he seized this moment to get rid of Xiaofeng? Captain Sun's gaze turned even darker as he admitted that he had indeed intended to finish Xiaofeng. Somehow, though, at the critical moment, the axe had swerved just slightly off course, missing its intended target. Meanwhile in the car, Suchen glanced over at Xiaofeng, his expression thoughtful, curiosity evident as he finally asked about Captain Sun's intentions. Xiaofeng shrugged, barely looking up as he responded with casual indifference, explaining that Captain Sun was simply like that. He advised Suchen not to overthink things, as it was just the captain's nature to be intense and watchful. Yet, while Xiaofeng seemed unworried, Suchen's mind lingered on the recent events, and he hadn't intervened by throwing stone and changes the trajectory of axe. Xiaofeng would be dead by now. Then, his eyes flickered up to the rearview mirror. There, framed against the backdrop, was Captain Sun, standing a distance away, his piercing gaze fixated on their vehicle with an unsettling, dark intensity. Suchen's instincts prickled. This was no simple grudge or rivalry. If Captain Sun was watching them with such a ferocious focus, then there had to be a deeper reason, a hidden agenda, that he was carefully keeping under wraps. Meanwhile at the construction site, workers moved about swiftly, tools clanging and voices overlapping as they worked on the partially built wall, its imposing height rising steadily under the relentless efforts of the base's crew. Amidst all the motion, one figure stood out unmistakably: Union, her towering presence. With practiced ease, Union lifted and placed heavy blocks, her movements smooth and efficient, as though the weight of the massive blocks was no more than a trivial burden. Union looked down at them, her expression humble yet slightly sheepish. She gave a small nod in acknowledgement, though there was a glimmer of concern in her eyes. With a light-hearted tone, she admitted that her strength came at a price. She consumed a considerable amount of food to keep herself going at this pace. She chuckled softly, adding that she hoped the base could keep up with her appetite. Just then, Union paused, her expression shifting as something in the distance caught her attention. She squinted slightly, then recognized the familiar shape of a car steadily making its way toward the site. A faint, warm smile touched her lips as realization dawned. It was Su Chen's car.